Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to talk about the single arm kettlebell snatch. There are a bunch of different types of snatches out there. This is the easy one, single hip dip. That means the hips go down once per rep. Think of it like a deadlift family of movements. Over time, multiple years of training, the snatch will change. You will start to do things called double hip dips. You will change the way you breathe, but it tends to happen in a logical and progressive order. This one is the simplest. Single hip dip at the bottom, inhale at the bottom, exhale at the top, one breath per movement. We will talk about more versions of this movement in the future, but usually people spend about 2 to 3 years with this version on a progressive program before they start to get to the other types of snatches. The kettlebell snatch is one of the most important kettlebell exercises you can possibly learn. There are 6 basic exercises that you should do. Usually snatch is the last one that people learn because it requires the most core stability, but it also creates the most core stability because it does something unique to the body called a Valsalva contraction. Basically, by swinging a big heavy weight fast, it forces your core to fire on all directions at once, 6 sides. So think of your core like a box, top, bottom, left, right, front, and back. It causes all the muscles to contract every time you stop the weight at the top. The kettlebell snatch is one of the best ways to improve your overall functional cardio with weightlifting in a small space. The side effect is you get a very good set of abs in a short period of time. When learning a kettlebell snatch, you should do a bunch of stuff before you work on the snatch. People start by learning kettlebell swings. 2-hand goes to hand. They go into a clean and press program where they build up their fundamental overhead structure with a weight on one side of their body. Then they work on get-ups, which helps people mobilize their shoulder in all the directions that the shoulder works in. After all of that, then they usually progress to a snatch. They learn the half snatch down, which is a clean and press up, snatch down. Then they learn the snatch up, clean and press down. Then they put it together to get a full snatch. Think of a snatch as a clean and press where you skip the middle, whether it's with barbell, dumbbell, kettlebell, or club. Think of it like a clean and press where you skip the middle. Our kettlebell snatch, we set up in a normal standing posture. We do not need to turn out because we're only using one kettlebell. We do not need our feet wide. Put your feet directly underneath your shoulders with your feet pointed generally straight ahead. When people turn out, oftentimes they make their feet really wide and they will collapse at the knees. Think of most basic single arm kettlebell stuff in a standing and walking posture. You are generally supposed to walk with your feet straight ahead, so we should lift with your feet straight ahead as well. If you walk with your feet turned out, start focusing on pointing your feet straight ahead without moving your feet in training with swings, with clean and press and snatch, and that will help alter your musculature back to what it should be. 2 feet point straight ahead. Step back 12 to 18 inches from the kettlebell for our starting position. Thumb points towards the sky, thumb points down. When we get down to the ground, the L of our hand is going to go to the corner closest to our body, the L of the kettlebell handle. Thumb points down, grab, sit back in your heels, feet pointed straight ahead. Push the weight back, snap, overhead. Squeeze the core at the top, lock the elbow, absorb down. Absorb down. When you have completed your reps, set it down the exact same way you picked it up. Push it back, track it down out in front. A snatch looks easy, but it is hard for most people. First thing that people will do is they will turn out and have their feet wide, and when they go down to the bottom, it will set their knees up in a weird position. With one kettlebell, feet straight ahead, feet shoulder width apart. The second thing that people will do is when they track down, they will not keep the kettlebell close to their hips. So think when you go down, the forearm of your body will contact the inside of your leg all the way up high. When people are learning, they will track down and this part of their arm will go down to where their knees are or below. This is loading their lower back more than their hips. Think the weight falls down close to the body, as close to your hips as you can get. The heavier the weight, the more important that is. The other thing that we hear a lot when people are learning snatch is that it is slamming people in the forearm. Very common when people are swinging the bell over their arm instead of around their arm. The snatch is just like a clean, only higher. The kettlebell goes around your arm. Let me show you a clean, then a snatch, then what people will do when they're doing it wrong. 12 to 18 inches back from the kettlebell, thumb points down, swing the weight close to your hips. The kettlebell goes around your arm, just like a clean. So when I do the clean, it's going around my arm, instead of over my arm and over my arm. A snatch is a clean and press where you skip the middle, but the movement that you do with the clean around the arm is still the same. Now up high, it is around the arm. On the way down, think point the pinky forward, come down, around the arm, around the arm, around the arm, around the arm. When the kettlebell is up at the top, palm faces forward. On the way down, tip the pinky forward, start to fall at the midpoint, roll your thumb to point down, absorb force, weight close to your body, stand up and reverse that movement. Stand all the way up at the top of every movement. Kettlebells emphasize good standing structure. That means at the top, elbow is locked. Drive your shoulder away from your ear, stand all the way up. At the top of the movement, drive your rib cage down. If your ribs are up and your tailbone is sticking back, think of that probably not good. Squeeze the glutes as hard as possible, have the abs on throughout the entire range of movement. There are a bunch of ways to breathe on this exercise. In the beginning, the simplest way to breathe is in at the bottom, out at the top. In at the bottom, out at the top. As you get more advanced, that can change in a bunch of different ways, about 5 different ways. But in the beginning, the most important thing is to fill your body with air when you are absorbing force at the bottom. When you inhale, your body is filled with air, it becomes more rigid. So inhale at the bottom, exhale at the top. When you exhale, you involuntarily will contract your core. The kettlebell is trying to rip you in half at the top. Exhale to get your core to contract to stop the weight from going back. In the modern world, absolutely everybody should practice kettlebells. Kettlebells fill that role that used to be filled by manual labor, picking up a heavy object with one side of your body at a time, which causes your core to fire across the body. The majority of the modern population has back pain. The number floats around 60%, but that number goes up every year because people spend the majority of their life sitting. If you go to a gym and you do a bunch of bench press, then you should do kettlebell snatches. If you do deadlifts, you should do snatches. If you play any sport, you should do snatches at some point in your training. Think about snatches as endurance weightlifting. In the beginning, you will start with sets of 3 to 5, and you will treat it like strength training because you are strength training your core and your lungs and your standing position all at the same time. But you are never done with snatches. You start with sets of 3 to 5, and after several years of training, you will move to time under tension. That means where you do not set the kettlebell down or stop moving for increasing lengths of time. The classic competition time frame is 10 minutes. That means doing snatches approximately 20 a minute, non-stop for 10 minutes, 200 reps without stopping. So you need to start with strength training, build up your core, do volume cycles, and then build into time under tension. If you have a competition adjustable kettlebell like we're using right now, then you have a nearly infinite amount of training. You can start at 12K, do 10 minutes, build up to 200 reps, and start to walk that weight up. The goal is to get to generally 24K for 10 minutes with men as just a normal thing that everybody should be able to do. And ladies, depending on frame size, it could be anywhere from 12 to 20K. If you want to be good at it, then you will take those numbers up even higher. Men approaching 32K and ladies approaching 24K. The kettlebell snatch does things to your core that you will not get from any type of gym training. Kettlebells, clubs, and mace will build your capacity to do real life functional movement for a small amount of money absolutely anywhere in the world. It should be a complement to any other type of training that you do.